Hello, this is Harry Paden. I am the host of Paden's Pulpit. Today is season 2, episode 13, and it's on Joseph Bologne, the Chevalier. Joseph Bologne, Chevalier. And I've come to get information on this great man I didn't know previously. I consider myself a historian, especially a black historian. I have a wealth of knowledge. It's because I choose to always inform myself and learn something new every day of my life. So I found out something that I didn't know, and many people, many people, even historians, didn't know. This was a Frenchman, well, Caribbean, but his father was a white French slave owner, and he impregnated one of his slaves. Well, at a young age, Joseph, it was discovered he was very talented musically wise, and slaves didn't get an opportunity to do a lot. They were slaves, but some kind of way, they don't go into it. It was discovered that he was very talented. Like almost like a Stevie Wonder prodigy. So because of his musical talent at a very young age, it led his father, fathers, as bad as they may have been, they have compassion for their children, and most sane, rational, God-fearing fathers want the best for their children. So I don't know what led this man to do with the white slave owner who had impregnated his slaves, as many of them did back then. He took his son, Joseph, and arranged for him to get enrolled in an elite, very elite, private school in Paris, where Joseph studied alongside the sons of aristocrats. Of course, he endured much racism, being the only black at this school. They didn't want to accept him, but it is said that during the audition, he played and knocked the guy's socks off, how great he was. And again, he was maybe 6 years old, and they reluctantly enrolled him. Of course, his father paid well for that. But Joseph wasn't just a talented violinist. He was a virtuoso. He was just great. And he played the harpsichord, he played many other piano, he played many other instruments. But he was also a great, super great swordsman. It is said that he was only defeated, I think, 3 times in his whole entire fencing career. Aside from that, he was a great athlete along the sides of some of the greatest athletes in the world. He was a fabulous runner. He was a boxer. He was a swimmer. He was a dancer and even a skater. He excelled at all those disciplines while becoming one of the best musicians in Paris. In other words, he could have just been a musician now, but he was a great athlete. He was just a fantastic guy. We don't know, history doesn't know or doesn't record who taught, I'll call him Chevalier, because that was a title, and I'll go into that he was given, how to play the violin. But we do know that he was an extraordinary player. He graduated from the Royal Polytechnic Academy in 1766. Chevalier was both a gendarme and a chevalier, a order of the knighthood, it's a Legion of Honor, resulting in his new name, title, Joseph Bologne. Chevalier, I always mispronounce that. Chevalier, Joseph Bologne, Chevalier de St. George. So he was given that title. Again, it was a knighthood, it was a royal, To be a Chevalier meant that you were special, you were in a high order back in those days in France. In 1769, he joined the orchestra of the Concert des Amateurs Gusset Orchestra. And we may not know it, but that was one of the most elite orchestras of the time. And remember, he's black. And he wasn't light-skinned black, he was black. He was darker skinned. In 1772, he performed 2 of his own violin concertos. And in 1773, he became the orchestra's concert master, unheard of, and conductor, because he was black. But he was so talented, audiences raved about his leadership and his talent. Unfortunately, because of French law and custom, again, back in the 1700s, at that time, it forbid mixed race marriages. Okay, you say, why does that matter? Because he was so high up there in the echelon. There were no black women that fit his status. But he couldn't marry a white woman because it was forbidden. It was highly impossible for him to marry anyone because of his aristocratic social circle. However, that didn't stop wealthy French women from falling in love with him. A taboo. You know, it was always secretive and many people knew of it. And he was given a kind of get out of jail card free most of the time because he was so talented. But his most intense relationship, he was to a married woman. Her name was Marie Josephine, I'm not going to get this right, but Montallemont. She bore him a son, but tragically, her husband sent the baby away after its birth, leading Joseph to lose both his lover and his child in one blow. It was said that the baby came out dark of skin, and the husband knew it wasn't his baby. And of course, he killed the baby. So not only did Joseph lose the woman that he loved, who was married, his son was killed. When Joseph was suggested for a directorship at the Académie Royale des Musiques, the highest royal order of, you were the top conductor, top composer in France. Marie Antoinette, the queen at the time, was his friend. She recommended him because she knew he was so talented and worthy of that. But, of course, racial objections to the color of his skin prevented him from getting that appointment. In 1777, this is another monumental thing, he wrote his first opera, Ernestine, for the Comédie Italienne. 1 year later, he composed La Chaise. He was called the Black Moses. The truth be told, Moses should have been known as the White Chevalier. During the French Revolution, Joseph volunteered to join the National Guard. In September 1792, a corps of 1,000 black soldiers were formed. 2 years later, in 1994, he became the colonel of the 1st Cavalry Brigade of Men of Color. That corps eventually earned the name of the Legion St. George's after their celebrated leader, Chevalier. He led 1,000 volunteers of color, Europe's first all-black regiment, and became one of the continent's leading abolitionist voices. He did all that while facing a society that all too often wanted to judge him simply for the color of his skin. Remember, great athlete, great talented musician, great person. Chevalier, was so instrumental in the war against the French. The leader, little short guy, Napoleon Bonaparte, ordered that all written history be erased from the archives and recorded history. So for many years, no one knew or had anything he was erased from history, and no one really did anything to promote his history. He's a black man. But this talented gentleman's history has finally come out. The director is Stephen Williams, who happens to be black, has brought this to the screen. The movie Chevalier is in theaters now. I suggest you go see it. It is history. History that I didn't know about, but I do know about it now. This great man deserves it. If you wait and see it on TV, that's okay, do that. But we know Hollywood goes by the numbers, and if you want more movies like this, Hidden History of Blacks, go out there and see that movie. It brought tears to my eyes. Joseph Bologne, the Chevalier St. George. Joseph Bologne, the Chevalier St. George. Black man, violinist, athlete, leader of the abolitionist movement in France. To God be glory. Knowledge is power. Black history is worldwide. We have contributed to the world. To God be